everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show.
What a great episode last week. I had such a good conversation with you. I feel like it's always nice to reflect on some of these baseline processes that help me get my work done.
Me too.
That was so good. Mm-hmm. So we're following up a little bit more follow-up on that topic, on this whole idea of prioritizing and overwhelm. And so we're going to be talking about, finishing what we start, this whole idea of follow-through. But before we do that, make sure you head over to takecontroladhd.com, get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show on the website, subscribe to the mailing list, please, please, please. You'll get just a little email each week when a show goes live, so you make sure you don't miss a single one. You can also, of course, subscribe for free on iTunes or your podcast application of choice. Connect with us on Twitter and Facebook, and call us. Leave us a voicemail at 503-664-480D, and you just might end up on this very show. And
it's true.
It is. It's very true. Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
All right.
That's it. So let's talk about it. Let's follow through on our follow-through.
Okay, let's do that. Well, and that is actually kind of the common theme sometimes when I talk to people, is that I've got all these great ideas, great projects that I have in mind, and I start them, but then I don't follow through with them. I don't finish them, and it frustrates me and it frustrates my family. Help me, help me, help me. And so I completely relate to this, because how do I do this without throwing my husband under the bus?
Oh, do it. He's easy.
I'm just going to throw him under the bus.
Throw him under the bus.
Yes. But and he would actually be the first to admit that, that kind of happens sometimes in our own house. We start these projects and they don't get finished. With good intention. I'm sure that someday they will. And so, and it may take some time. But yeah, so I have some tips on how to get them finished.
Did I ever tell you about my floor? Do you remember my wood floor problem? Okay, so this is a prime example. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to throw myself under a bus so you feel not quite as bad throwing your husband under a bus.
Okay, good.
So my wife and I, maybe I've told this story, but it was probably 200 episodes ago, so I'm going to tell it again. We had wood floor in our kitchen leading up to this kind of Berber carpet in our kind of eating room when we bought the house, and it was not a good match. I don't know how they ended up with that kind of pattern. So I said, well, let's just go ahead and replace the floor we'll just match the floor in the eating area with the kitchen wood. So I'm just going to peel up a piece of wood right where the floor meets the carpet, and I'm going to take it to Home Depot, and I'm just going to have them help me match the floors. Now, I'm sure those of you who are listening who have any experience at all in a flooring project know how ridiculous that is.
Almost impossible.
Almost impossible. And the fact that I had no experience ever doing any flooring, nor did my wife, just piles on. So I go to Home Depot and I explain my situation, and he kind of smiles and nods, and he says, so this is a project that's going to take some work, and I think your wife is really going to enjoy this floor with her next husband.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? And so now I tell that preamble just to make the impact more important. That hole in the middle of our floor where I lifted up and pried up that board remained exposed for 4.5 years.
Nice. But you're still married?
We are still married, and we eventually finished the floor thing. People who are expert in such things came to our home, and they made it beautiful. And so but this follow through thing is something that's very close to my heart around our house.
Yes, it's hard. It's hard. Well, and I think that my first tip is that we probably need to identify what are the things that you're not following through on. Is there a trend here that's happening that you're not aware of? Now, obviously, what you're talking about is it's a big project that you didn't think was going to be as big as it really ended up being. So that could be part of the problem right there. Do
you think?
Yeah, it's taking on something much bigger. And that's probably what's happened in my family too, because I can tell you, I'm just going to share this story and hope that I am still married.
He doesn't listen to this show. Come on.
Well, last year, we had a snowstorm. or a windstorm. It wasn't even, well, no, it was a snowstorm and a windstorm. And the snow, we live kind of in a mountain, and the snow piled up on our trees, and with the wind. Anyway, one of these big trees fell down in our backyard. Kind of up on the hill of our backyard. It's not even really technically our backyard. It's like the hill that's behind us.
Right, because you live up against it's not an urban growth boundary, but there's nothing there. It's just like woods your yard ends, and then there's woods.
There's wood, and one of these trees,
no nothing,
no, there's lots of trees, but there's this one particular tree that fell down, and that has sparked all of these great ideas for my husband, and he decided that he wanted to get he wanted to rent an excavator and clear.
I can see where this is going. Yeah. I want to start digging down into the mountain. We need a lair.
He totally did. I wish, I don't even know how to explain it, but him and his friend go down the hill with this excavator. I don't know how it didn't tip. I don't know how they didn't get hurt, but they take it. They finally got it down to where our land is. And yeah, they took trees and branches and tried to clear this little area. And he had great hopes and intentions. And
I have to tell you, I really, really hope that this story ends with, and the excavator is still there, half buried in our mountain.
No. We rented it, and those things aren't cheap. So
right.
That went away after the end of the weekend. Yeah. But it did definitely clear some space, and he had some great intentions again of, what this was going to be. Were we going to put like this fire pit? And then there was this like controversy between, does the, what is it called? The jumping thing, the,
dog?
No. What the kids jump on.
Trampoline?
The trampoline, thank you. We had all of this controversy between, does the trampoline belong up there? Well, I'm like, no, because it's still a hill. Like, what if they fall? Like, they can't.
Jumping off of a trampoline at an angle?
But he was going to flatten it out with the excavator. I mean, he had like these really big plans. So anyway,
like shooting your child out of a cannon. That's a horrible idea.
It was a horrible idea, but he was sure that he could make it safe because he was going to make it flat. He was going to make this hill flat. And, to his defense, he did. I mean, there is like a flat area up there. But after the excavator went away and I won the argument that the trampoline needs to stay down where the lawn is,
not
where
that
it's
we're
flat,
keeping score or anything.
Yeah. Our backyard, I'll just take a picture of it and I'll put it on the website. It's still, it's just flat and there's nothing.
Is it flat though? I mean, that's a real win. Like that's a triumph for male thinking right there. If he actually got it flat.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't really spend a whole lot of time up there, to be honest with you, because I just don't really understand what his intention was. Like, I know he wants to make it this like fun place, like a fire pit and everything, but. And he was on Pinterest. Oh, God help us. Getting ideas. And so, I mean, bless his heart, he really does have great intention. It's just that the problem was, he's not a landscaper, right? He's not a professional. And so, I think that the project just got a lot bigger than what he expected, and time started passing. And here, we started this last April, and, by the end of the summer, you just want to throw in the towel because it's end of summer now. So why even work on it at all? And we actually haven't talked about what we're going to do with it now, because here it is spring and we're going into summer, and we probably do need to do something with it because we have this like flat section on our hill. So
that is a riot. That is actually a better story than mine. I adore your husband. I think he is a wonderful man and a hero to me in many ways, but I will never hire him to do any excavating around my house.
No, that was crazy. So anyway, going back to what my purpose or intention of this show is, so we can finish and follow through the show, is identifying those projects. And really the point is looking for trends, what's going on. And there's basically kind of three things that I can see that happen. And one of the things, and probably really, if I look at my husband's example, all three of these things happened. First is you don't know what the next step is. You know, you're just not sure what to do next. And so you do nothing. And I can definitely see that in my backyard. It's like, it was too overwhelming. There was too many next steps, you know? And so what happens is we just don't do anything with it.
So we got through step 1 on the floor project, but step 2 caused us real trouble.
Because it was too hard or complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the next step, is that, you know, you figure it out, but then it's too hard or complicated or a bigger project, you know, than what you expected. And then we keep finding excuses to sort of avoid it as well. And, you know, going into the marital bliss of our situation is I'm like, hire somebody. Let's just hire someone to take care of this, you know, and he's like, no, I can do it myself. So there was this controversy with that too. So, and that's still not settled yet. So we'll see what happens. And then the third thing that I see that happens with people is that they're just not interested in the project anymore. You know, they started off, and this kind of goes back to what the gal said last week. You know, you start off really excited about it, and then it wears off. It's not as exciting. And so right. you're going to find something else to do it. And so my thought on that is, you know, can you just dump the project? Like, I can't just dump my backyard. We're going to have to figure out something to do with it. It probably is fine the way it is. I should say we could, because it's still kind of foresty. I don't know if anybody would even really notice. But I think, you know, it's just coming back to any other project too. Like, could you dump your floor project? Probably not. Like, you know, exactly. that isn't something that you are. Now, you lived with it for 4.5 years.
Well, you know why? Because it became a toleration. We became numb to it.
Exactly.
And it became ridiculous. And, you know, it was ridiculous until, you know, for the love of a father-in-law comes over, and I think he made a trip here, and he said kind of slyly, so, see, the floor is still not fixed. And that was it. That pushed the buttons for both of us, and we got it fixed.
It was time to get it done.
It was time to get it. Yeah. It was time to get it done. We had become numb to it, but it was ridiculous. It reached ridiculousness. So anyway, well, but you know, it's funny because that no longer interested part. You know, I think it's okay to be no longer interested. To your point, you're likely no longer interested because of either the first or second issue or both. You don't know the next step, or it's too hard, and so you are suddenly not interested in it anymore, unless you've dug yourself a hole, sort of proverbially speaking, and you just have to finish it. But I also think it's really important, and we talked a little bit about this last week, it's okay to not be interested in something. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, is when you start something and you feel this sort of psychic obligation that you have to finish it. And you totally don't. In most cases, you just don't. Like, it's okay to let go. It's really okay.
Well, and I agree. And I see this, you know, a perfect example for this is people who have a lot of craft projects, right? I see people who are quilters, or I talk to people who do all of these crafty things, and, you know, they start off with a quilt, but then for whatever reason, they don't like it anymore. They're not as interested, but they have that guilt and that obligation to finish it. And so I agree. I mean, I think that let that go. If it really isn't something you're interested in doing anymore, then just donate it or give it to somebody that would want to finish it, because most quilters know other quilters, and somebody will want it for sure. And so, but yeah, letting that go and being okay with it, I think, can be a huge release, because then you can focus on what you really want to do that needs to get done.
Exactly.
You know, focus on the right things. Yeah. With that said, then I think that once you have what it is that you want to do or you need to focus on, is setting the intention to finish it. It's so easy to think that you're going to do it someday or this weekend, and that day happens and it doesn't get done. And so we really have to kind of, be really intentional, you know, scheduling it into your calendar and saying, okay, this weekend I am going to, you know, work on this backyard project, or this next week I'm going to make sure I hire the right people to get this floor done and make the appointments and make it happen. Eliminating your distractions, you know, that could get in the way of that. And I don't know, there's just something about that word intention that gets to me, because I'm thinking, okay, if I really set my mind to it, then I will finish it. If I'm not fully committed to it, then I'm not going to finish it. So I got to get committed and then really set the intention, if that makes sense.
That's totally, absolutely. I love it.
The third tip that I would suggest is getting help if you need it. Having a coach can really definitely help, an ADHD coach, or if you're working on a clutter type of project, you can certainly work with a professional organizer. But it's that body double that we were talking about earlier. Just having somebody in the room with you, can make a big difference. A coach can keep you accountable. They can keep you focused. They can help you break down those projects if you need to. There's a lot of different resources out there to get help if you need to. So never feel like you have to do it alone, especially if you're struggling on following through on a particular project. I think that's a great avenue to look at. The last thing I want to say is I really want to know what people are saying to themselves about this project. Watch yourself talk, because if you're kind of walking around thinking, well, I never finish anything I start, or you're really beating yourself up because my husband's mad or my wife's mad and this is just who I am and then that's what is going to continue happening. So just really be careful with the way that you talk to yourself and believe that, I can finish things. And if I do set the intention, I schedule it and I eliminate these distractions and I'm committed, I can do this, and really believe that you can. That shift can really make a huge difference.
That is so true. I love that last point.
Well, you have it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think a good way to wrap up. Do we have any other news for the people before we say our goodbyes?
No, I don't think so.
Excellent. All right. Well, goodbye, people.
Yeah, goodbye.
Thank you.
Now that we've shared our stories, I would like to hear stories from other people. What have you finished that never got started? Or what did you start that never got
what
finished?
What have you finished that never got started?
What have you finished too? I want to know what you finished as well.
Either
right?
one.
Both things.
Call us, 503-664-480D, or post a note on Facebook or Twitter. Take Control ADHD on both. We would love to hear from you and hear your stories of follow-through. Let us know. Reach out. That's it. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we will catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.